So I'm Blair from Blocknative. Been with Blocknative for almost 3 years now, and happy to be here and talk about MEV, the past, present, and future. And so we'll start with maybe. Here we go. Was that me or you? Okay. So MEV, the value derived from controlling transaction inclusion and ordering. And the thing I want to point out here is the controlling part. And so in the Ethereum ecosystem, we had miners, and now we have validators, and they have a lot of control. They have this monopoly for a short period of time on how those transactions are ordered. And that's an important thing to keep in mind as we go through this talk. And so when I think about the past of MEV, I always go back to Phil Dion's Flash Boys 2.0 paper, his research paper about priority gas auctions, DeFi summer. And when I think about that paper, the thing he points out are these priority gas auctions. And so we wanted to create this DeFi ecosystem that is open, is permissionless, is easy to use, is competitive with the traditional financial system. And what the paper points out is whenever you have an economic system, you're going to have people that want to take advantage of that economic system. And so there are these bots, and these bots, we're having this winner-take-all auction. You can go to the next slide. And they're having this winner-take-all auction in the mempool. They were bidding each other up. Next slide. And you can see this here. So this is from the paper. I highly recommend reading it. But you can see they're watching each other. They're constantly one-upping each other in the mempool. And what this did was it caused a lot of congestion and filled up block space and caused high gas prices. Next slide. And so in the beginning, we have this expensive ecosystem. We have poor UX, and we have this introduction to MEV, which is this potential threat, this potential existential crisis of the ecosystem. Next slide. And then, to Phil's credit, he discovered the problem, and he decided to create a solution that's Flashbots, and Flashbots is illuminating the MEV that exists, is democratizing the extraction of that MEV, and trying to redistribute it or distribute it across the supply chain. And their first real product that they created, was this private auction, but it was the ability for these searchers to send bundles. And these bundles, they have, 3 characteristics or 3 properties that I think are important. And the first one is however you send, whatever order you send those transactions, that's how it'll be executed. They're atomic, so there's the miners were simulating these transactions. They'll either include them if they aren't going to revert, or they won't include them at all. And then this last part is probably the most important part to me, which is we kind of gave them this top of block inclusion, in that these bots, they're finding profitable opportunities, and they can use that profit to bid higher up, to outbid regular transactions, and they get this priority of top of block. And so this is the supply chain that we all know and love, at least the original supply chain. So a user constructs a swap, they sign it in their wallet, the wallet broadcasts it to the mempool, searchers are watching the mempool, they pick it up, they create the bundle, they send it to Flashbot's private auction, and that gets handed off to the miner to get included or not in the block. And this was the early days. I don't know if people spend a lot of time on the Flashbots Discord on what were people working on, and there's always the 2 main things people were working on is this atomic DEX backrunning arbitrage or sandwiching. And the next slide. And then next slide. And so to recap, we have bundles become first-class citizens. It accomplished its goal of reducing network congestion, and it decreased the importance of latency, introduced this more of the importance of smart contracts, writing highly efficient gas smart contracts. And so if we, next slide. If we fast forward to 2022, we get the merge, proof of stake, validators, MEV boost. So it's now been almost exactly a year since the merge. Go team. So we go the merge, most significant and substantial network upgrade. We go from proof of work to proof of stake. And we have this block value. So in proof of work, the block value is transaction fees, MEV, nice. Transaction fees, MEV, and issuance. In proof of stake, it's transaction fees, MEV, and issuance. But what happens to issuance at proof of stake at the merge? It goes way down. We get ultrasound money. And so what does that mean for MEV and transaction fees? They now become the economic density of validator returns. And in times of congestion, MEV is the #1 economic influence of validator returns. And so to me, this is why we have MEV Day. This is why MEV is so important in the ecosystem, is because it's such a big part of what actually makes this whole ecosystem run and what incentivizes validators to continue doing their job. And so because MEV has now become such a central part of validator returns, we use this as an opportunity to rethink the MEV supply chain. And if you think about the supply chain I showed earlier, Flashbots just handed off the bundles to the miner, and the miner did the work of both block construction and proposing the block. And so in order to construct a block, it takes a lot of resources. You're doing a lot of simulation, a lot of computation. And so there's this opportunity to separate these two roles. So literally, proposer-builder separation. We're splitting block construction and block proposing. So here's the new MEV supply chain. So when a validator wants to propose a block, they run this sidecar MEV boost. MEV boost connects to a bunch of relays. And there's this new entity called block builders. And these block builders are out of protocol, outsourced, specialized entities that are continually creating blocks and sending them to the relays. And so when the validator is going to propose a new block, they say, hey, MEV boost, give me the highest bid block. And MEV boost asks the relays, and the relay selects the highest bid block. Pretty straightforward. And so why did we do this? Again, the computational requirements to be an efficient block builder are pretty high. And so if we put that on the validator, there might be some centralization concerns on who can and can't do it. There'd be a higher barrier to entry there. And it also had this side effect of incentivizing these specialized entities, these block builders, to create and build this resource-intensive infrastructure in order to efficiently extract MEV. And because we have this outsourced market of block builders, they do a great job of extracting MEV, and they increase validator returns. So MEV becomes even more important in the return profile for validators. So we say bye-bye to miners, hello to validators, and we usher in this new MEV supply chain. So where are we today? There we go. So today, I like to think of the present as this time of what I call order flow wars. And when you think about, we introduced block building into the context of the Ethereum ecosystem. And if you think about what the inputs of being a block builder are, it's public order flow, which has no information asymmetry, bundle order flow, and private order flow. And bundle order flow and private order flow, they do have information asymmetry, and they are the competitive edge for a block builder. And so bundle order flow, this is just searchers. Private order flow is anything from users to wallets to projects to companies. So if we look at bundle order flow itself, let's see how it's doing. Maybe. Here we go. So this graph is private transactions that have happened since the merge. And you can see there's been a nice steady increase in private transactions. And this blue part is the searcher transactions, and it's been pretty flat. So the increase in private transactions is not really from searcher transactions. Next slide. And when I think about bundle order flow, I like to break it down into two different categories. So you have bundle order flow from searchers who are vertically integrated with the builder or independent, or sorry, not, so they're independent, they don't have a builder, or they're dependent and they are vertically integrated. And these are generalizations, but the dominant strategy for an independent searcher is, the atomic strategies we talked about earlier, which is backrunning, sandwiching. There's obviously a bunch of others. And these independent searchers, they participate in this first price auction. And credit to the SMG guys for highlighting the first price, second price auction. So they're in this first price auction. They have no visibility into their competitors. They just have to send their bid out on that specific opportunity, and based on history, they make their bid. But they have no ability to look at what their competitors are doing and change their bid in real time. And the dependent, the vertically integrated, they're different. They have a non-atomic strategy. It's typically sex-dex. They are participating in the second price auction, and that's because they do have visibility into their competitors' bids. They actually have like two levels of visibility. They have the bundle flow visibility, so they're a builder, they're receiving bundle flow, and this bundle flow could be competitive, it could be non-competitive, but they can see that bundle flow in real time. And then they have the MEV boost auction visibility, so they can see the block builders' bids in real time as well. And so because they have this visibility, they can make changes to their bundle bids in real time and their block building bids. And there's this other important characteristic on the end, which is the ability to cancel their own bundles. And if you think about what sex-dex is, centralized exchange, decentralized exchange, arbitrage, they're looking at the price on Binance, they're looking at the price on Uniswap. Price on Uniswap doesn't change for 12 seconds. The price on Binance changes potentially a lot. And so what may have been a profitable trade in the beginning is no longer a profitable trade at the end, so they need to be able to cancel their bundle quickly. And so if they send it out to all the builders, there's this latency game that they would have to play to say, hey, builders, you need to cancel this. And sometimes that does not work out because it takes too long to send that signal out. And so there's this incentive for them to make that order flow more exclusive and keep it to themselves. And so what are the impacts of this bundle order flow? So there's a great blog post. I highly recommend reading it from Titan Builder on Frontier Tech. But the bundle order flow doesn't just have a linear relationship to the block builder's win rate. It actually has an exponential relationship. And so in order to be a top block builder, there's a huge barrier to entry to get to that level of bundle order flow. And not all bundle order flow is created equal. In fact, the top of block is many orders of magnitude more valuable than the rest of the block. So those first few transactions are much more valuable than the rest of the block themselves. And what are those first few transactions? Those are bundles. And so if we move over to the private transaction market, so here's this graph again. So we've gone from less than 5% of block space's private transactions to 15% since the merge. And we know that the searcher transactions are not the reason why that's increased. So what is the reason why that's increased? And so if we look down here in the April and May timeframe, we can see that's where the jump is, and that is the time that MEV blocker launched, and then MEV share launched in June quickly thereafter. And so these order flow auctions are a big reason why we're seeing this huge increase in private transactions. So before the merge, you could send your transaction to Flashbots. Flashbots had 90+% of the block space. It was a good user experience. Your transaction got executed pretty quickly. After the merge, there's a fragmentation of that block space, and these MEV blocker and MEV share give you a way to aggregate that block space back together and have a pretty solid user experience again. But one thing that we have noticed at Blocknative is these private transactions are second-class citizens to bundles. And so what does that mean? When you send a private transaction to a MEV blocker or MEV share or directly to the builders, you are bypassing the public mempool, which has this unintuitive effect where you now have no chance of being in a bundle. And because you have no chance of being in a bundle, you are going to be executed after the bundles. And so many blocks where there's like a frenzy on this one liquidity pool, you are going to be executed after all these bundles, and those bundles are the same, are executing transactions on the same liquidity pool. And so you, by trying to be private and avoid the sandwich bots, and have better execution, you actually end up having the same bad execution because you're executed after all these bundles. And so if you are a wallet or a dApp or a company, how do you navigate this private transaction market knowing that your users' transactions are second-class citizens? Thanks. And so to recap, order flow is king, top of block holds the majority of the value, privacy makes users second-class citizens. And so now if we look to the future, there are lots of problems, opportunities, challenges that we're looking to solve. I don't have time to go through all of them, but we do have these wonderful panels and panelists that are going to come up here and talk about a lot of these. But do we choose to enshrine PBS? Is PBS working for us, or do we not? We have restaking on the horizon, these intent-based architectures like CalSwap. How do you minimize the impacts of SexDex and liquidity providers with LVR minimize AMMs? Can we split up the auction, the block auction, to top of block and the rest of the block? And then, as L2s become more prominent, there'll be more cross-chain arbitrage and MEV. So these are some of the things I look to in the future and some of the things that we're thinking about at Blocknative. But yeah, that's the past, present, and future of MEV, and looking forward to the rest of these panels. That's all I wanted to say. So thanks so much.